The first practice after the scrimmage is in the books, and we talked to Daylan Flowers all about it.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I am your host, Steven Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media and a former Ole Miss staff member. We will bring in Daylan Flowers from the Rebel Walk to talk all about today's practice in just a second. But first of all, thanks for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen every day. And please give us a like, a subscribe, and a comment on your way out. It costs absolutely nothing, but helps out the show. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Daylan Flowers from the Rebel Walk is joining us. And Daylan, listen, we talked about at certain points, my sources inside from the scrimmage said that Princewill Umanmielen was unblockable at times during the scrimmage. And then Lane Kiffin today said he was the defensive MVP of that scrimmage. It feels like Princewill Umanmielen's kind of taking steps moving forward. He's having a really good camp.
Yeah, I got a chance to first see him throughout the first week of fall camp, and his size just comes out at you. He's a guy that is just particularly just stands out amongst his teammates and peers in general. I even got a chance to chat with him after the first day of fall camp, just really locked in, a high-minded guy, and really is just focused on getting better every single day. I got a chance to just chat with him about some conversations that he's had with his brother since him being drafted to the league, and some things that he's learned from him and peers that are already in the NFL. And he really is just, working on getting better every single day. And so I've watched him a lot throughout fall camp. Really explosive guy for his size. Is really just going to be a problem for opposing offensive lines. And, again, one of those guys you're excited when he's on your team, but hate when he's on the other team. He's looked really, really good throughout fall camp. And he's those guys that, when things don't go his way, he knows how to kind of adjust to those moments and get better and not allow that moment of error to happen again. So to hear that Lane Kiffin, and the team named him the defensive player of the game for the scrimmage this past weekend, it speaks a lot about the athletic ability to Princewill, and as well just the pure intensity that he's willing to play with. I think viewing him, has a lot of similarities to this brother, but I think as well something that may stand out to him about a lot, within his game is his hand movement for a edge rusher is really, really good. His ability to just grab offensive linemen and just snatch them and move them out the way is something I think Ole Miss fans definitely will be excited about seeing this year. I think it's a huge standout for him. I think some people may have been a little questionable about how good he could be coming out of the transfer portal from Nebraska, just in terms of how potentially he could be compared to the SEC and compared to what the Big Ten was like. But so far throughout the first three, two going into week 3 of camp this week, I'm really, really impressed with Princewill Umanmielen.
Yeah, and let's see. I had a phone call today with one of my people, and they reached out and they said, listen, he is not Princely Umanmielen. Do not expect him to be Princely Umanmielen. But he is probably better than Princely in the run game at setting the edge. And we said both of the ends that Ole Miss has right now are better at setting the edge than they had a year ago. Have you seen anything like that out on the field?
Yeah, I think it's a really good description. I think, Princely last year was really good in terms of, being a pass rusher and getting through on those third down situations when you kind of knew the offense had to pass to get a first down on those situations. That's where Princely and Umanmielen really thrived at moments last year. With Princewill, I'm seeing a lot of rushing the edge when they're rushing the ball in scrimmages and throughout practice the first couple of weeks. I would say one thing that stood out to me today is they were practicing a lot of intense game time red zone drills in the first team defense, first team offense, and the first team defense, that front seven, they really took notice to stop the run game on the line of scrimmage. And Princewill, it seemed to be at ease for him to get in the backfield and make those stops and make those tackles. That's something that I would say is a huge difference. I think Princely really thrived in rushing the passer, and I think Princewill really thrives in rushing the run game and attacking the run game. I think this front seven is going to surprise a lot of people, and I think that's going to be something that is not going to drop off from last year. And when I say that, I mean in terms of the rush defense. This rush defense looks really, really good. I think they have the ability to stop any rushing game they're going to see this year, and especially on that red zone. They have absolutely taken over the red zone attack when, the rushing yards are trying to get through and get for a touchdown. That front seven looks really, really good. And, I don't want to, put too much on them, but I think that is going to be a really, really stellar part for this Ole Miss team this year.
Yeah, really interesting thought. Whenever you were just bringing that up about run defense, is like, who do you have to worry about in run defense? Who do you have, who comes up that you would want to see? And it's weird to think of, but probably Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a spot with Jayden. You look at Georgia, if they can run the football on you, and that's all she wrote there. LSU is going to run the football, although they're not quite that good at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you look at Ole Miss's schedule, like Florida, that's actually a good example. Florida, you need that front seven against the Florida Gators.
Yeah. I think it's going to be huge against teams like Florida and DJ Lagway and even maybe South Carolina, Lenore Sellers, guys that, have great running back rooms, but also have some mobile quarterbacks that can move to make things happen for their team. I think this front seven is going to be really, really important against teams like that. I think they have the ability not only to contain opposing rushing offenses, but as well deviate it so much that it kind of forces opposing offenses to kind of focus on the pass a little bit more, which may play into benefit for Ole Miss, and sometimes it may not. But I think this rush defense is that good where you're solely going to see them just shut down rushing attempts from other teams and kind of gradually just see focus more passing on from oppositions this year. That's something that Randall Joyner has worked on. It seems to be a lot throughout the first couple of weeks of fall camp, and he's emphasized it a lot throughout his defense, his front seven. So I think that is really going to be a key piece for what this defense brings into the upcoming season this year.
All right, when we come back, we will talk to Daylan all about the offensive line and what kind of changes and information, and talk a little bit of ball on this ho-hum practice report day. So I do want to tell you about Game Time. We've all been there, logging in early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories and not making stress with ticket shopping. That is where Game Time comes in. Game Time, it makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop the closer it gets to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. Ever wonder what your view will actually look like before you buy? Well, the app shows you a panoramic seat view, so there are no surprises. So take the guesswork out of buying concert show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. It's pretty interesting. I think I was on one of the sites. Maybe it was on 3. Maybe it was the Rebel Walk. I'm not exactly 100% sure where, but there was a Patrick Kutas sightings today.
There was. Not expecting to see him out there today, but I think it's important he's back. I think, Lane Kiffin talked about in the pressers today, just the moves that the offensive line has had to make due to some injuries already. And then, again, just some guys that kind of need some cohesiveness around them to just play together and gel together a little bit more on the field actually is important. And I think having Patrick Kutas back out there is huge. Not only just his impact on the game, but his experience in the SEC and his leadership. He speaks really highly. He speaks very maturely, and that's a guy you want out there on the field. Again, we don't know from a media standpoint how progressed he is along whatever it is he's been dealing with. We may have just, he was out there. It didn't seem like he was given 100%. He was out there gradually just kind of moving with the offensive line and working within the ranks that John Garrison had his position group going through today. But I definitely would expect him to, appear at some point and make some competition happen. This is a guy that was really good at Arkansas, was a 4-star product coming out of high school, and really has the tangibles to be really good, and is versatile as well, can play within a lot of different positions on the offensive line. I think Patrick Kutas, it can be really, really huge for Ole Miss. I just think it fits into the pieces of where do you place him, how healthy he is, and when do you kind of make those moves happen. If so, the offensive line has a lot of pieces kind of going around right now, and I think that kind of is currently at this exact moment just a position group that kind of continues to need the most work at the moment.
Apparently, Jayden Williams was in a black jersey. Any concern there, or are they just doing some load management?
I wouldn't say any concern. I saw him in a black jersey last week. Sometimes it's just guys that he's been dealing with injuries over his time at Ole Miss. And, I talked to him after the first day of camp, was still gradually getting back to full routine. I think it's getting to that point now, and it was just or just protecting him. That's a guy that has been here for since 2022, and you really want him out there on that field healthy and 100% this year. So I really just think it's a protection notice from the team. They don't want to cause anything to be a bigger deal than it needs to be right now for Jayden Williams.
All right. And the other thing that is pretty interesting that honestly nobody's talking about, Jayden Williams wasn't in the scrimmage. He was replaced by PJ Wilkins. It wasn't Terez Davis. It wasn't any of the backup. It was PJ Wilkins, who was running with the ones that guard before that. So PJ is at least the 6th offensive lineman at this point, right?
Yeah, I think I may have talked this with you maybe last week or the week before, but I've been really high on PJ Wilkins. He's looked really good. Again, the offensive line, they have, I would say other than maybe, Bryson Sanders and Diego Pounds, they've been trying a lot of different things, trying a lot of guys at different positions. But I've been really, pleased with the way I've watched PJ Wilkins perform. He's looked really good, gelled really good. He's taken criticism from coaches really well, and he's just continued to got better throughout every viewing practice that I've been able to watch him. So I wasn't surprised by the news that he was able to go out there with the potential first team offensive line and gel and work with those guys and compete for those moments. I think he has the intangibles to be really good. Again, it just a lot of those times with offensive linemen, you just really need to put them out there in game time experience. So I was really actually happy to hear that PJ Wilkins got those moments within last Saturday's scrimmage to actually compete against the first team defensive line and actually be out there with the other offensive linemen to kind of build some connections and chemistry within that O-line.
Yeah, and real quick before we get out of here, TJ Banks and Dante Core both out at practice. They were both involved allegedly with what went on in Memphis. What does it look like for TJ Banks? When do you think we might see him?
It's a great question, man. I honestly don't know. TJ has been around the facility the last couple of weeks, but today he was actually moving around, doing some more stretching, actually kind of being a little bit more versatile and doing some run drills with some of the coaches on his own. So I think he's a kind of, getting ready to be in a moment where you may see him around week 3 or week 4, maybe week 5. I think that I don't know if they really expected him to be back and be moving as well as he seems to be already this quickly. But it was definitely a little bit of upbringing to see him out there moving around. And usually he's just been walking around in the treatment room, kind of just being on his own. But today he was actually out there on the field moving around and doing some different things on his own. So I don't know, kind of when we may see him. I just think that it was really important to note that he was moving around today, and that those guys are finally, looking healthy, and which is really huge, not only physically but mentally. They've been through a lot, and I'm really glad to just see them in good spirits and being around the team as well.
Yeah, the rumor of the injury, let's see, TJ Banks, I think it was rumored they were hoping to get him back for Kentucky or right after it. Mm-hmm. And Luke Haas, they're hoping to get him back for LSU or right after it. I think that's the 2 injury tidbits that I've heard.
Yeah, and those are, if you want a guys back at those times, those are going to be huge. You if you're Ole Miss, you definitely want to go into LSU undefeated, and you want to hopefully either go into that Georgia weekend with no losses or maybe only 1 loss. So getting those guys back gradually over time is going to be huge for both sides of the ball for Ole Miss. And again, and like I said, I think when the first fall camp kind of started with you. When this team is healthy, I think they have the ability to compete with any team in the country. That they're still figuring those moments out right now within health issues. But I think as time progresses over the next couple of weeks and game time starts for Ole Miss, then you kind of see the full potential of what this team really can be as the season gets going.
So what else did you notice today that I didn't ask you about?
Trace Buckler got a lot of opportunities today at the tight end position. It's a guy out of, I think, Frisco, Texas. He performed really well today, alongside with Trinidad Chambers. He looks like a really just old school quarterback. Is a good mobile quarterback, rolls out of the pocket and throws on a run really good. Also is reading the defenses in the red zone really good. So I was really watching what Trinidad did today, and he's competed at a high level today, and throughout the entire fall camp. If I'm being honest, I thought Devin Price and Isaiah Hartrip also look really good at the wide receiver position. Those are two guys that may not be the main go-to guys, but definitely may be a little bit of a side piece for the Ole Miss offense this year and come in and spark some moments. And Austin Simmons as well. I think that the scrimmage was needed for him, and Lane Kiffin kind of talked about that, to make those errors. And he's kind of been picture perfect so far throughout fall camp. So for the scrimmage to happen, some errors to happen, it was really important for those moments to kind of happen so he can learn, grow, and just move forward with them. So he kind of was really locked in today, and placed some balls really good throughout the secondary and made some things happen. I think the scrimmage is really important for him, and moving forward, the next couple of scrimmages will be as well. Those will be some guys that really stood out on the offense. Cameron Beavers really stood out on defense as well. I thought he did a phenomenal job today. And Nick Cole, once again, really looked good on the secondary for Ole Miss as well.
Yeah, and this scrimmage coming up this weekend, obviously this one will be much more tightly closed unless they let the media in. But it's a situation to where this is the last opportunity to really do it, because after that is the mock game, and the mock game doesn't really do anything except for the non-football stuff.
Yeah. This is where intensity kind of builds up. The guys really need to start preparing for game time moments, and I saw that a little bit more today throughout today's practice. But this is a real gridiron now. They've been doing 2 days, and the moments are now starting to build for who's going to be able to step up for the team this year, who are going to be the starting guys within roles that maybe have been a little bit questionable about who's going to be the starter in those positions. So I think this week and this upcoming weekend is going to be as much essential for this team as any other week for fall camp.
All right, Daylan. I know you have the practice report over at the Rebel Walk. What else do you have going on?
Doing some one-on-one stories about a few players throughout the week. So those things will be coming. And just again, enjoying the outright being around football. It really is a blessing every day to be able to cover sports. I keep on saying that, but it really is. So got that going on. Got some things going on my own show. Getting a chance to chat with my guy Jay Harris from ESPN, and he's been through some battles over the last couple months. So I'm grateful to get him on the show and chat with him. So just doing a lot of busy work, man. It's getting to that time where school's about to start back up, so the schedule is getting a little bit busy, but I'm all grateful for every single moment that I get.
All right, Daylan Flowers, check out his work at the Rebel Walk. Also listen to the Daylan Show podcast as well. Thank you very much for coming on to the show, and we'll talk to you later, man.
Appreciate you guys. Hotty toddy.
Hotty toddy. All right, thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves on offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we're the front door of Ole Miss. If you don't believe us, Google Ole Miss podcast and see how much this channel comes up. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. It helps the show, and it's absolutely free. Give us a 5-star rating and a subscribe and a like or whatever on a podcatcher as well. Your support means the world to us. Also, join Subtext. There's a link down in the description, the Subtext link. That is where the Insider Nuggets are going. It is absolutely the best thing in the world. It's a 14-day free trial, and you can click by just replying to a text and saying stop. It is actually one of the best deals in all of sports. Check that out if you don't mind. And for your second listen, check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to college football's landscape. Find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hotty toddy, everybody. And remember, analytics is just the old English word that means bad football. We'll see you tomorrow.